Well, hello, good evening, everyone who is watching us live here on Monday evening, or those of you who are watching the recording of this at a later time. My name is Mark Despotakis. I'm Director of Public and Government Affairs here at PMEA, and we are so excited to have you all here with us tonight and the guests that we have with us tonight as we are kicking off our Music Education Advocacy Day, which will actually happen tomorrow in Harrisburg. And I'm coming to you live from Harrisburg tonight, where I did have some meetings in the Capitol earlier today. And I, along with a team of some other folks, will have meetings in the Capitol tomorrow. Now, this year's Advocacy Day is a little different still, as opposed to advocacy days that we remember several years ago when we would all be in the Capitol building having meetings, and there would be lots of performing groups throughout the day and all throughout the month of March. That has not happened this year because of some ongoing COVID concerns and still some ongoing security concerns in the building. But I can tell you this, I was in the building today and things are getting back to normal. So that is fantastic. So what we're going to be doing tonight is we're going to be talking about how you can participate in PMEA's Advocacy Day. And it's only going to take you about 60 seconds, I promise. We will explain how to do that a little bit later. Your participation is so important because there is strength in numbers. And the more people, the more Pennsylvanians who spread this message of the importance of music education and our policy asks, of course, the better it is for all of us in music education in Pennsylvania. So what we're doing tonight is a kickoff event to all of that work tomorrow. We're going to hear from some special guests along the way that you may have seen promoted, and we are going to end the evening with a very special guest, Pennsylvania Secretary of Education Noe Ortega, who will speak to us about the importance of music education and the importance of music education in his life. It's a great interview, and I think you'll be surprised by some of the things he has to say about his participation in music education. So with that, without any further ado, we're going to go ahead and get started. And I'm going to welcome in, not everyone yet, that's everyone you're going to see tonight. I'm going to welcome in PMEA President right now, Phil Stattel. Phil, I'm going to turn it over to you.
All right. Good evening. I am Bill Stattel, PMEA State President, and I would like to take this opportunity to welcome each of you to tonight's Advocacy Day live stream. Whether you're watching live or viewing the recording, I'm glad that you're giving up some of your valuable time to listen to some important information. Mark Despotakis and our distinguished guests, Emily Brumbaugh, Miranda Moore, State Senator Carolyn Committa, and Pennsylvania Department of Education Secretary Noe Ortega, will share with you personal stories and pertinent information concerning advocacy for music education in Pennsylvania. What a year! Thankfully, in-person festivals are taking place again, auditions are being held, classes are returning to something close to normal, depending upon what part of the state you're in, and live music can once again be heard. This is happening because of our state board, our staff, and most especially you, our members. Even with accommodations including hybrid festivals, one-day virtual and one-day in person, and commuter or one-day events, our students are thriving. You are making sure that this year's students will get to experience music performed with superior groups with excellent conductors. Some classes and ensembles this year are able to work and rehearse without masks and reduced spacing because of their situation, while others are still not able to rehearse as a whole ensemble. Just as we have had to deal with differing needs of large and small schools, urban, rural, and suburban schools, we now also need to be aware that each of these schools has different needs in regards to their reactions to COVID-19 and all the variations we are now seeing. And as with every challenge PMEA members have been faced with in the past, we have not only overcome, we have done so with style and distinction to give our students the best music education possible. Music educators, even though they are as different from one another as people can be, are all the same when it comes to supporting music and the students in their programs. They want what is best for them. They want to be able to give them the best musical experiences possible. That is where advocacy comes in. If we want to give students the best, programs need to be funded at all levels: national, state, and local. Tonight, we are focusing on the state level. We need your support and involvement to help keep and grow the funding we receive on a state level, and to make sure that when our elected officials think about education, music, and the arts is one of the first things they think of. We have over 3,000 members in PMEA. We can have a very loud voice if we work together. Tonight, you will hear some amazing stories and get some vital information. We need to act on this. Mark has created a forum for you, your family, your friends, and your booster organizations to use to help facilitate this. He will tell you more about this later on. But realize that when our elected officials hear from a contingent as large as ours, en masse, they certainly will hear and listen. So please, watch and listen to tonight's speakers. Be inspired and act. May music always be with you.
Thank you, Phil, for those opening words. And I couldn't echo it more, the importance of as many of us as possible participating in Advocacy Day, because that combined voice is what can cause action. So thank you, and thank you for all your work as president. So what we're going to do now is briefly run through what our policy asks actually are. Every year, PMEA sets forth a policy agenda that reaches the Pennsylvania General Assembly, the governor, the Pennsylvania Department of Education, the Pennsylvania Board of Education, as well as local school districts. And we also do participate in some national advocacy. But these advocacy points that I'm going to talk to you now are what we are specifically talking about tomorrow. This is the message that every member of the General Assembly will receive tomorrow, and we hope that you will help us reinforce by sending an email to your representatives. And again, we will explain just how easy that is. So I'm going to briefly go through these just so you understand what it is that we are looking at. So the first, of course, is an increase in the basic education subsidy. We're asking the General Assembly to work with the governor to continue what has happened in the past several years of increasing the amount of money that goes into the basic education subsidy in Pennsylvania. Because when that happens, the money from the state goes to school districts. We know that then can trickle down to music education programs. And I'm not going to read all of this to you. This is all on our website with some additional supporting information, very specific to the monetary amount that we are asking for this year. It's important to note that Pennsylvania historically, at least in the past several years, has rated near the bottom of state support for music education, or for education in general, I should say. There was a time where the state was footing over 50% of the bill as far as what local school districts spend on education. That has dropped significantly over time, and we are hoping to get that number back up. The second is a concern we have about charter school funding. I'm sure you have seen this in the news, especially being in the education space. You see what's happening with charter school funding. We are absolutely not against charter schools. However, we want to make sure that they are fairly funded in the same way that brick and mortar schools are funded, and that they are doing what they initially were set out to do, which is innovative, being a place for innovative education for students. And we want to make sure that that is happening and that they are funded appropriately and held accountable in the same ways that public brick and mortar schools are. An ask that we added last year that we're working on again this year is that we're looking to get physical education credit for marching band participation. This happens in other states around the country where students that do participate in high school marching band can receive some physical education credit for that. Now, we're not asking Harrisburg to say that this has to happen in every school district. Rather, we are asking them to enact legislation that would allow it to happen in every school district in Pennsylvania, and then those local school districts could determine the way that that happens. We know that marching band students and all music students really sometimes have this problem of, boy, I really want to take all of these classes, but I can't fit it into my schedule. So they may have to not take a marching band class because they want to take some other class, or they may skip a lunch because they want to be in a music class. This would help ease that burden. And we do have more information on our website. We have actually a 2-page document with a lot more information on this if you're interested in reading about that. And I did have some meetings about this today, this very specific topic, and we'll have more about it tomorrow. So we do hope that this is something we can make happen. We're not only about K-12 education. We are certainly understand the importance of higher education. And as the Pennsylvania state system of higher education goes through this redesign that's happening right now, we want to make sure that they are adequately funded and the state system stays as strong as it has always been. So we are supporting a proposed increase in the funding allocation to the state system of higher education. We are looking for the Department of Education, the state board, to review content area standards, the Chapter 4 standards in all areas, but very specifically in the arts. As you know, we have a set of national standards, and we also have Pennsylvania standards. And many of you have used PMEA's crosswalk document to help navigate both of those sets of standards. What we are looking for is that in Pennsylvania, they truly review standards in all content areas on a cycle, so that everything is reviewed, including standards in the arts, because they have not been reviewed here in quite some time. And here we are, it's 2022, and the national standards are from 2014. So some 8 years old. You know, how do they fit with current standards? What are the right current standards for Pennsylvania? We want to see those reviewed and have music educators be part of that process with other arts educators to have those standards reviewed. This is one that we have talked about for several years. We are looking for the Department of Education to reinstate a full-time staff position at the Department of Education for arts education. Right now it is a part-time contract position. We are looking for that to be made into a full-time position. And finally, we're supporting our friends at the Pennsylvania Dance Educators Organization, PDEO, as they are looking for a direct path to dance teacher certification. If you are looking to become a dance teacher in Pennsylvania currently, that sometimes that can go through a phys ed certification or a communication certification. They are looking to have a direct path to dance teacher certification, and we are supporting our colleagues there as they work through that, and they've moved the ball a little bit on that, and we are here to continue supporting them as well. So those are our policy asks that we have started to present to lawmakers, that we did today, and we will tomorrow. And when we ask you to take that 60 seconds tomorrow, I know I sound like a PBS pledge drive when I'm saying we're going to do this and it's only going to take 60 seconds. But when we ask you to do that tomorrow, all of those things will be laid out for you in the document. You'll just need to fill out your information and click send, and all that information will be sent. And I just can't tell you how crucial it is for as many of you as possible to send that information along. So we're going to switch gears a little bit right now, and I'm going to welcome Emily Brumbaugh here. She is the Advocacy Council Chair for PMEA, and Emily, thanks for being here with us. You're going to talk about local advocacy.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mark. It's great to be here today on behalf of the PMEA Advocacy Council. We hope you've been celebrating Music in Our Schools Month in your own districts throughout the month. Today, I have a few suggestions when creating a long-term approach to local music education advocacy, as well as a few examples that may prove useful as you go about this. So we'll go ahead and jump into the next slide. It's important to remember that music advocacy efforts are not often one size fits all. With that approach, the unique backgrounds and expectations of the various stakeholders in your music program will likely be overlooked and lost. Instead, ask yourself, who are the stakeholders of your program? That is, who has a voice when it comes to the role that music education plays in your school district? Then from there, you can determine how to reach and engage each group in a way that acknowledges their perspective and also encourages their support. On the next slide, on that note, it's beneficial to remember the proverb, tell me and I forget, teach me and I may remember, involve me and I learn. This is true not only for our students, but also for the stakeholders who we aim to educate about the importance of music in our schools. So to be able to teach students the value of music in our day-to-day lives, it's first necessary to get them in the door. And this goes beyond just recruiting for ensembles and even offering curricular music classes to include the question of access. If students elect to get involved in your music program, will all of the students have the opportunity to not only be involved, but to feel successful? For example, Loyalstock Township School District recently worked with the Central Administration Data Team to compare the demographics of the district with the demographics of the program. And through the study, we found disparities in the program withdrawal rate between those with and without economic disadvantages. So this finding resulted in increased funding to provide school-owned equipment for ensemble purposes because it was based on data that school administrators could understand. On the next slide, we can talk about the school community. Sometimes music educators can feel like an island in their school district. This is especially the case if you're the only music teacher or in your school or even in your district. So with this in mind, building positive relationships with members of your school community is critical, not only to your advocacy approach, but also to your health and well-being as a teacher, which will contribute to longevity. We, as music teachers, inevitably ask other staff members to support music programs throughout the year, whether it's by asking the maintenance team to move equipment or asking cafeteria staff to coordinate lunches for music festivals, asking teachers to help students make up work for field trips, and so much more. There's a lot at stake that we need to be aware impacts other programs. So on the next slide, you'll see one way to thank these team members and showcase the value of music in our schools at the same time is to have ensembles visit and perform at special events throughout the year. For example, Loyalstock Township Middle School always visits its feeder programs as a part of the recruitment initiatives, but also to connect with the teachers who helped get the kids where they are. After the performances, middle school musicians have the opportunity to assist in classrooms and personally thank past teachers, which they always really appreciate. The next video that we'll see actually showcases the LTMS Jazz Ensemble performing at an elementary spring festival during the school day. So getting creative with your space and what activities you have going on can really be beneficial as far as connecting with the school community. Moving forward, the parents of the students involved in school music are the primary bridge between the program and its extended stakeholders. They are the boots on the ground that will be in the best position to spread good news about the program. And when we think of band booster organizations, typically high school parents are the most active members of those organizations. So looking for ways to boost engagement and understanding of the younger levels can be very beneficial. On this next slide, you'll see pictures of a parent band. Hosting a parent band provides an opportunity for parents and guardians to really dive into what it means to be part of the band or part of the chorus or part of whatever program you're running. This allows them to see firsthand what it takes to be in the music program as a student, and as a result, better prepares them to become your program's biggest supporters. On top of that, it's a great learning experience for the students and a point of positive connection between teacher and parents. When Donald E. Schick Elementary hosted Parent Band, they also had involvement from parents who work within the school district in other capacities, such as the high school track coach and even a school board family. In this case, the advocacy efforts ended up being twofold in connecting with parents, but also the school community. Moving forward, when it comes to budgetary, personnel, and scheduling decisions impacting your program, your building principals, district admin, and school board are usually the key players. When communicating with these stakeholders, it's really easy to focus on the program's needs and wants. However, this isn't the most effective way to build support for your program. The saying, "You'll attract more flies with honey than with vinegar," is really relevant, but this doesn't mean sacrificing your seat at the table either. Rather, a process of cooperation will allow you to express your needs based on specific goals and related data while highlighting your support for the overall goals of the school district, which administrators really appreciate. On the next slide, remember that these stakeholders may have no personal experience with music programs, and even if they do, they may not be familiar with the very intentional goals of your program. So in an effort to educate them, hosting school board meetings where band members or chorus members, string musicians, general music performers come and perform for the school board can be really meaningful. Donald E. Schick Elementary students recently presented an overview of the elementary band program to school board members in January of 2022. This activity included an introduction by the director, where it was shared the percentage of 4th and 5th grade students that were involved in the ensembles, the number of times they perform each year, and in this way, the program really relied on language and statistics that were meaningful to the stakeholders. Then 2 students worked with our school board president to demonstrate the first trombone lesson, in which the school board president actually agreed to learn the parts of the instrument, how to buzz on the mouthpiece, and how to set up and hold the instrument. Student speakers and performers went on to explain and showcase the progression of musical learning, and the 15-minute presentation culminated in a performance of the Olympic fanfare for the board. And the delivery of handwritten thank you notes to each school board member. In this next video, you'll see one of our 4th graders explain to school board members what is actually going on within a single band lesson in language that is really meaningful to them.
Learn how to synthesize, decoding the music, and operating the instrument simultaneously according to a rhythm. For example, all the musical notes have numerical connections, and most of our music is based on mathematical fractions. Mr. Meyer is currently working on playing a new division of time. He'd like to share a short exercise. He's had about 10 small group lessons on this year, which amounts to about 300 minutes of instruction total. 1, 2, 3.
So an event like this not only helps advocate for your program outside of parents and families and into the central administration, but also helps give students a sense of pride and ownership in what they're doing every day. So finally, community involvement is not only relevant to build support for your program, but also to educate students on how to be engaged citizens. In previous advocacy efforts, you may have identified connections between your program and the community. In the case of Loyalsock Township High School, a prime example is of a band parent who owns a local news business and had connections with Senator Jean Yaw. So in part due to this connection, on the next slide, we can see that State Senator Jean Yaw recognized members of the Loyalsock Township Marching Band on their win during the 60th Annual Cavalcade of Bands Championships. The band was also invited to visit the state capitol and even received congratulatory citations on the floor of the Pennsylvania Senate. During this regular Senate session, Senator Yaw introduced and recognized the band, as well as each student representing the band, before his Senate colleagues. So here's a video recording of that event.
Colleagues, today I have some very special guests with me on the House floor. and they're from the Loyalsock Township High School. The 2019 Cavalcade of Champions, Lycoming County's own Lancer Marching Band. We're here to congratulate them on winning the American A Class Championship this past November, and I will be honoring their achievements with an official house citation. Congratulations to the Lancer Marching Band. This talented group received a fantastic score of 92.7. The Lancers, a phenomenal music program, is led by band director Ryan Bulgarelli. He's here with us today. Ryan leads one of the strongest music programs of any high school in the state, as evidenced by their championship. Members of the band are here with us in the Hall of the House today, so please give them a deserving round of applause for their achievement and our usual warm house welcome.
So again, these examples of local advocacy work because a significant number of voices come together in support of a music education program. So no matter where your advocacy efforts are at this point, it's important to start somewhere. But we really hope you'll commit to local advocacy by taking 60 seconds and sending an email to your legislators tomorrow. By bringing the concerns of the music education community to the attention of decision makers at the state level, music teachers will help ensure that music and arts programs continue as a part of education for every child in Pennsylvania. Thank you.
Emily, thank you so much for all of that. I love these examples because these are all takeaways that folks can do at home right now. You can start doing these things with your program. You know, these are not complicated things, right? Absolutely not.
Very easy to implement. In fact, the school board meeting was implemented on a week's notice. So
yeah, and you know, someone that I know well, PMEA member, always defines advocacy to me as telling the good news. So while it is important what we are doing here in Harrisburg and sending messages, those things that you outline are those telling the good news things, and those are the key pieces of advocacy.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So thank you for all the work that you're doing, and thanks for being here with us tonight.
Happy to be here.
So moving on, again, as a reminder, we are here live. I'm coming to you live from Harrisburg, and we have our guests joining us live from around the state, as tomorrow is PMEA's Music Education Advocacy Day. We're going to tell you how you can participate in that from home a little bit later. And also a little bit later, we are going to be speaking with Pennsylvania Secretary of Education, Noe Ortega, with his messages about music education and his message to teachers. But it is very important that we do have these conversations and have great partners in the Pennsylvania General Assembly. And one of those is State Senator Carolyn Committa. Last week, I had the chance to speak with her, and right now we're going to show you just a piece of that interview. Thank you for joining us to talk about arts education and to kind of ramp up our membership as they prepare to advocate for music education. Thanks for being here.
Oh, thank you for inviting me. I'm delighted to be with you.
So you're a champion of arts education, offered a resolution, kind of spearheaded that in the Senate, which we certainly appreciate because it brings attention to music education and all areas of arts education. Yes. If you could talk to us about, why do you have that passion for music and arts education?
Well, because I grew up as a student with music and the arts as a part of my curriculum at Fern Hill Elementary School in Westchester. And I started in third grade playing violin, and was very proud that I was accepted to be a violin player because I was told you had to have a very good ear.
Right.
So, and then fun fact, I was the concert mistress for the Westchester Elementary School Orchestra,
Okay.
which is really, again, a big confidence boost, right? And then I moved to Downingtown, and I became a member of the marching band. And my three best friends, who were also in concert choir, and can I say, those three best friends are my best high school friends today.
Yeah.
50 years later, we just celebrated our 50th. And so the band director said, well, we have 2 trombones and 2 sousaphones available in the band. We were juniors. And so we pulled, picked straws, picked instruments out of a hat, and I got the sousaphone. So, and I also played piano for my own pleasure. And I will tell you to today, these are continuing difficult times. And I will say to myself, go play the piano. And I will sit down and play the piano. So I know personally, and my children were also, and also theater was a big part of my childhood and my children's. So I see the joy, I see the strength and the friendships and the connections and the skills, quite frankly, that I learned and that my children learned and that my students learned. I taught in Octorara in a program for gifted and talented students, and we incorporated a lot of the arts in that program as well.
What I really appreciate about this is that you don't just say it, you do it. You walk the walk.
I live it.
Yeah, I love that. But I think the big scoop is, how do we get a picture of you in the high school band wearing the sousaphone?
Play. I'll do it. I will do it. Absolutely.
All right. I want to see that.
Oh, yes. Well, and I have played tuba at Christmas. It's been a while, but in the city of Lancaster.
Okay.
And it was the sound of the tubas, the euphonium. I don't know. There's it's not only tubas, but
right.
Oh, gorgeous. Yeah. Yes, gives me chills just thinking about it.
So, I mean, I love that then this message, underlying message of lifelong music making and music appreciation is what we all can get out of a scholastic music participation.
Yes.
And that's important for administrators to remember.
Oh my goodness, yes. And the connection between music and math. There are all the studies on that. Also, some studies on the effects, positive effects of music on seniors, particularly seniors with dementia, and how that is helping them exercise their brains, continue to be able to communicate more effectively. It's very powerful. And also all of the mental health, as well as academic support. As I said, I go to the piano. I'm better at the piano at this point than I am at violin or the tuba or sousaphone, I'm sure. And I can just sit down at my piano and pull out one of my favorite pieces and sort of play it. I'm also really good with hymns from back in the day. But yes, it's important for administrators to know that music, the arts, theater, all the whole package of the arts is not the icing on the cake. It is a very important ingredient in the cake. And our young people are suffering, our teachers as well, our parents, everyone, from a long pandemic. And, hopefully we're moving out of it, but we have the effects of it that we are living with, and we will be living with, and we're helping our young people to really use they have an innate resilience, but we need to nurture them as they are navigating some of the most difficult time. And you add on top of the pandemic, their deep concerns about the climate crisis. And now we see, heart-breaking, terrifying scenes in Ukraine. And so having a way to soothe one's soul, and either alone or with others, if you're in chorus or band or theater, that is something that you only get through the arts.
So I kind of maybe building off of that, part of what we're here doing is going to folks like you who are policymakers and advocating for certain things as related to music and arts education. And so we're here doing that at the state level, but educators kind of have to do that on a daily basis, to administrators, even to parents. You're always kind of doing that advocacy work. As somebody who is on the receiving end of that a lot,
yes,
from every imaginable thing, what's your advice to those of us who are advocating for arts education, for effective ways to get the message across to anyone who's a decision maker?
Yeah, well, I think you excuse me, tell your story and keep repeating your story and all of your successes. Remember that people generally need to hear things about 7 times before it actually sinks in. So if you don't feel like you were heard the first time, don't give up. Patience and perseverance lead the way to for actually finding a solution and moving forward. I jotted down a couple of statistics that I think are really important for school boards to hear, for administrators to hear, for parents to hear, for taxpayers to hear, and legislators. So the benefits in academic, social, and emotional outcomes for students engaged in the arts. Just a couple of statistics. Students who took 4 years of art classes in high school scored an average of 92 points higher on their SATs than their peers. That's a lot of points. Students with high levels of arts involvement are more likely to stay in school, less likely to drop out. And there are specific, details and numbers on that you can add. And then disadvantaged students who receive an arts education are 3 times more likely to earn a bachelor's degree than those students who had no arts education experience. Also, some of the anecdotal kinds of things that we see, studies show that students who are engaged in the arts has a positive impact on discipline, test scores across the board, and personal skills like compassion and empathy, which, are the fundamental skills that we want each of our students to develop. Teamwork, problem solving, creativity, not only in solving the problem or creating something in the arts, but the skills that are developed are then applied, easily applied, because you have developed those mental, intellectual abilities, and they can be applied anywhere. So, you know, mental health, wellness in general, academics, interpersonal relationships, friendships, as I said, and joy.
Senator Carolyn Committa, thank you so much for taking some time to talk with us and all of our viewers today.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I wish everyone all the best. Take good care of yourselves. I know you're taking good care of your students. And be dazzled and find joy every day. And thank you for helping our students be dazzled and find joy through the arts.
And thank you for doing your part to make sure they're recognized. We appreciate that.
Thank you.
And we thank Senator Carolyn Committa for all that she has done for us, for arts education. But really what's so noteworthy in that interview with her is she was selling us. She was telling us all of the positive impacts of arts education. And so that really speaks to somebody who really understands and is a champion for us. Now, that was only just a piece of our interview with Senator Committa. We have a full interview with her that you will be able to hear on our Take Note podcast, which will release this Friday, the complete interview with her. So moving on, we are going to speak to another guest we have with us tonight. And there she is on the screen right now. Miranda Moore is a Miss Pennsylvania candidate, actually Miss Lancaster County. Is that correct?
That's it, yep.
So thank you for being here. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited. And I've loved hearing from the guests so far. It's been incredible.
Well, I know that we have some people excited to hear from you as well. So I want to, let's tell this story a little bit. So you found us, you know, you came to PMEA and said, you know, music is really important to me. And now I have this platform and I want to be able to promote that. And how can I do that? You know, tell us your story of your musical background and kind of how you got to where you are.
Absolutely. So about a month ago, I was selected to be Miss Lancaster County 2022, which is a title in the Miss Pennsylvania Scholarship Foundation within the Miss America organization. So from the moment that I was selected, I wanted to hit the ground running with serving the state of Pennsylvania and Lancaster County. And I started thinking on what programs and organizations had shaped my life thus far. And pretty much at every turn, music and music education kept coming up. So reaching out to PMEA to partner with you all and to work with you all to spread this message throughout the state and throughout my community was pretty much a no-brainer. I knew that was something that I wanted to do and commit to throughout my year of service. Because growing up, I think that music was kind of the thing that held me together. My family moved around a lot, and whenever we would move, the first thing that I would join would be a band program, and I would make these friends and get connected and have these mentors and educators that I knew I could connect with because we loved music, and that was something that stayed very constant. And as I continued through music, I'm 24 years old and I officially have surpassed, I've been a part of music for longer than I haven't been. So I've been a musician for about 13 years. And with every year that I've been involved, I feel like I've become a better version of myself. I've seen growth in every aspect of my life and I've played multiple instruments. I started with the clarinet in concert band in 6th grade, and since then I have taught myself 6 instruments. So I've just every single day, I feel like I become more involved and more passionate about music, and I see that change reflected in myself as I grow as a mentor and leader and volunteer. So I'm very grateful to music for the journey that it's created for me, and I'm very fortunate to have this platform now to work with PMEA to give back to that community that I love so much and that has shaped so many things for me.
So when we talked a few weeks ago, I was kind of getting your background, and anyone who knows me knows I relate everything to marching band. Marching band has, you know, is has something to do with it. So you know, we're talking, and then you talk about the marching band piece, and then you tell me that you were in a pretty big notable marching band in the country. Tell us about that, and then kind of what the marching band experience did to shape you.
So I was a part of the UGA Redcoat Marching Band. So there were 450 of us in this big machine in red and black. And I was very fortunate to have ended up at UGA and in this program. And when I graduated high school, I actually said to my parents and to pretty much anyone who knew me, my clarinet was going in a box under my bed and I wasn't going to play anymore. I had loved being a part of music. I had loved marching band in high school. It was by far my biggest involvement. I was band captain. I was incredibly involved. And I had kind of felt a little bit of the weight of that and thought, I'm going into this new phase of my life. I'm transitioning. I don't think that's something that I'm going to have time for or be able to take with me. And as that realization weighed in, I realized that was not true at all. I really wanted to continue with music, and I couldn't really imagine my life or my college career without it. And so I actually emailed the director of the Redcoat Band. Auditions had already, passed. They had selected people, and I had auditioned, and I reached out and said, actually, I don't think this is for me, a couple months prior. And I reached back out and said, I'm crazy. That was a horrible idea. I would absolutely love to be a part of the Redcoat Band if you'll have me. And he said, we are going to put you on the waiting list. We don't know for sure what's going to happen. And it just so happened a spot freed up, and I was able to be a part of the program for 4 years as a clarinetist and for an additional year actually as the clarinet teaching assistant. So I am incredibly grateful for marching band. It has continued to shape my life. And I am definitely planning to continue to be involved in any way that I can with marching band, which is why I'm very grateful to PMEA for giving me this outlet to speak about it, because it really is such a unique experience. And I feel that people who haven't done marching band don't exactly know all of the work that goes into it, all of those hours and late nights learning your drill and your music and memorizing everything. And I remember people would always say, how do you know where to go on the field and all of that kind of stuff. So it really is a unique experience. And we have such a strong community that loves it so much and knows how important and incredible it is. So definitely, absolutely love marching band, and so glad that that light bulb kind of clicked in my head to say, no, you've got to go back. You love this. You've got to give it your all and continue doing it.
And I love, so being in the Georgia marching band, right? You got to go to these bowl games and experience these amazing things. I'm sure that any other student wouldn't have had the opportunity to be there and be part of that close.
Yes, I was able to go to the Rose Bowl when we won. I was unfortunately at the national championship that we lost, but we recovered. We're back. We're the national champions. So I got to travel the whole nation with the Redcoat Band and see so many different games and cheer for the team and the school that I loved so much. So it was definitely life altering. And like you said, I have memories and experiences that most students at UGA throughout my years can't imagine, can't dream of. Everyone wished they were at those games, and I got to be there with the people that I loved so much.
How will you use marching band then as part of your platform in the Miss Pennsylvania competition? And then I know there's other pieces of your platform, so tell us about that as well.
The Miss Pennsylvania competition actually has 4 phases of competition. So we have interview, onstage question, red carpet, evening wear, and then, of course, talent. And so talent is where my music experience and music education really comes in. And it's a very large score in the competition. So it's somewhere that I feel I'm really able to talk about how much I love music and kind of shine in that way. And something that I think that a lot of students don't know is that you can continue to use music after you graduate in your life to earn scholarship dollars, to get more life skills, to have incredible professional and academic experience to put on resumes for your jobs. And so with the Miss Pennsylvania Scholarship Foundation, I love being able to say, I'm an engineer. I'm an environmental engineer. I did not end up pursuing music as my professional path, but I have been able to continue to involve music in my life in so many different ways and continue to stay involved in it and serve as a mentor to young people who may see music not necessarily as their path that they want to go into professionally, but want to continue to have it as a part of their life. And this organization has given me the chance to showcase all of the different ways that you can do that, and that you don't have to have necessarily a traditional path in music to continue to keep it as a core value and a core pathway in your life.
So talk to us a little bit about the other pieces of your platform.
Absolutely. So my social impact initiative is actually titled #ClothesMinded, Sustainably Chic. And it's all about sustainable fashion. So as an environmental engineer, I've been able to study a lot of different places in sustainability and a lot of different things that we can do as people and as consumers to create a more sustainable world and a more sustainable future. And the sustainable fashion industry is actually somewhere that we as consumers every single day can make change with our dollars and enact change in sustainability. And the fashion industry is the #3 contributor to greenhouse gases. So when we're buying these t-shirts, we are putting millions of gallons of water into the creation of garments. We are putting millions of tons of emissions into our atmosphere. And by promoting secondhand shopping, re-wearing the clothing that you already have, creating capsule wardrobes, as well as taking care of your clothing, I actually wear an entirely sustainable wardrobe as Miss Lancaster County. So from competition to appearances, I love talking about buying my clothing secondhand, renting my clothing, borrowing from a friend, upcycling, anything that I can do to help reduce my own personal impact on the planet and involve other people in that as well. So sustainable fashion is something that I'm incredibly passionate about and love speaking about to groups of people and getting them involved and realizing that they can take that step and be a part of the change just in everyday activities and things that they purchase.
So we've just scratched the surface here. Number one, how can folks follow along with your journey here?
My main social media outlet where you're going to see the most content is my Instagram. It is at Miss Lancaster County. And from there, I share a bunch of different resources ranging from music education advocacy to my life as a woman in engineering and what I do on a day-to-day basis as an environmental engineer, as well as my social impact initiative and the Miss America organization and the Miss Pennsylvania Scholarship Foundation as a whole. So any questions that you can think of, I would absolutely love for people to reach out. I would love to connect with more people both in this space and beyond and continue to work together and partner. So definitely reach out to me at Miss Lancaster County on Instagram.
Fantastic. And so a couple other places you will be helping out with PMEA. You will be here in Harrisburg with us tomorrow at the state capitol, helping us to meet with representatives. We're going to have you on our Take Note podcast in May. So, like I said, we just scratched the surface. So we're going to talk a lot more about this. But if folks want the chance to meet you, you will be at the PMEA conference on Friday of the conference in the Poconos at Kalahari. You've offered to help us out, and we'll never pass that up. So you'll be there and helping out definitely with the choir concert.
Yes, and I'm very, very excited and would love to meet as many people as possible in this space. And as I said, if you can think of any opportunities that I can help out, whether if it's a music educator watching this and you're looking for an extra set of hands to hand out programs at a concert, please reach out. I would love to help and volunteer in any way that I can in this community that has given me so much.
Well, Miranda, we are so glad that we have you on our team, Team PMEA, Team Music Education. Thanks for coming on live here with us tonight. You're going to join us again at the very end for a wrap up, but thanks for taking some time to talk to us.
Thank you so much.
And as I said, you'll be able to see more of an interview with Miranda when we do a podcast in May. So we've talked with several folks tonight, and we've been talking about that we're going to be interviewing the Pennsylvania Secretary of Education and what he thinks about music education and his message to music educators. So without further ado, I am going to go ahead and show that to you right now. Well, Secretary Ortega, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today and talk to music educators across Pennsylvania. We really appreciate it.
Mark, it's an absolute pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
So you've been in the role here for a while. You've been in the department for a while. But I'm just curious, first of all, for folks who may not know you, give us the thumbnail sketch of your background of kind of, what's your trajectory to how you got here as our Secretary of Education.
Certainly. And so most of my work, Mark, has been in the area of post-secondary and higher education, particularly as it relates to improving access for folks. I started my career in Texas, made my way to Michigan, and ultimately to Pennsylvania. And the one thing that each of those stops had in common is that it was about access for historically underrepresented folks. And then the importance of what it meant in terms of K through 12 preparation, early childhood, in order to give individuals the knowledge, tools, and skills needed to navigate a post-secondary pathway. I did spend about 6 or 7 years working as an early childhood educator in Japan, teaching early language acquisition as well. And so a lot of the work that I've done builds on an understanding of how education can both broaden awareness and understanding of young folks, and then put them on a path for success. So in a nutshell, that's sort of what drove me into the position originally in Department of Education. I was the Deputy Secretary for Higher Education for 3 years before receiving this appointment. But that, I think, in a nutshell, speaks to what I usually say is the trajectory or the genesis of my path to the department.
So curious then, anywhere along that pathway, has arts and music played a role in that, or even kind of in your developmental years, has arts and music played a role in your life?
Absolutely, absolutely. And so, one of the things very few people know about me is as early as I think I started in junior high school, I picked up a musical instrument. I'm a brass player. I played the trumpet originally. And it was something that really became my extracurricular. I wasn't very gifted in the athletics. I did everything that I could to try to do something. And music is something I gravitated to. I mentioned that I grew up in Texas. In fact, I grew up in South Texas, right around the Corpus Christi area, very close to the Mexican border. And one of the things that was very popular at the time was mariachi music, which essentially is a tradition that comes from Mexico. It's got some roots in Germany. And I ended up joining a mariachi band probably in my junior high school to high school years. I played jazz band in high school as well. And then ultimately, marching band. I was the drum major for our school for about 2 years. Yeah. And so, I had every indication music was a big part of my life. It was a part of my sisters as well, who are younger than me. All of us went through that path. And I think it really gave me, for starters, kind of the discipline that I needed with regards to being motivated in learning an extracurricular. But it also gave me the incentive. And I think we often forget that young people need an incentive for why they want to get overly involved in learning in the extracurricular. And that was me. It was a way of life. And if everything that I called out in terms of the music involvement is seasonal, right? So I never had a break.
Right.
I was always practicing. I was always in a marching band. There was always a competition that I was participating in. So it gave me all that skill, and I want to say self-esteem as well as I got older, and really did fashion me as what eventually became sort of my leadership and an approach to learning as well.
So, we think I'm a big marching band person. So anyone that listens to PMEA's podcast knows I talk about marching band all the time. And I taught marching band for a while. So I relate everything in life to marching band somehow. But, that marching band is certainly a part of the culture in Pennsylvania and that on Friday nights. But in Texas, it's really a part of the culture, not only with football, but the competition scene there is just totally embedded in that. So that is fascinating to me that you were part of that.
It is, and I, to this day, like, those are some of the best memories that I remember from my high school days, because it was and I think at some point somebody's going to listen to this and say, I can't believe you called our football team out, but they were not very good at all. In fact, people would come to the football game to see the marching band, and it was family and friends. And so in some cases, we kind of felt like while we only had 3-4 minutes at the halftime show, it was sort of the moment for us and for those who were in attendance. So it just takes me back to all the important things of what I remember made education really something that stood out for me and that I wanted to be a part of all the time. What was at risk for not doing well academically for someone like me was not being able to participate. So that always served as the incentive, right? You didn't pass, you wouldn't play. And so that is, I know it's probably a bit more behaviorist as opposed to improving cognitive, but it worked, right? You know, I knew that if I could not perform well in one aspect, I could jeopardize another aspect of what I really enjoyed. So it made a big difference.
So let's, building off of that a little bit, from your perspective, what do you think then a quality music and arts program looks like in a school? And then how do we really ensure equity there? Because the way we fund schools here is up for debate daily in this state, and it is a big deal and it's important. So what's your take on what a program looks like, and how do we make it equitable?
Yeah. And so, I think that the part that I later in life became more aware of, that I wasn't aware of when I was going through the process, I didn't think about the learning and the development that was occurring while learning something like music. And but there is a background to every sheet of music that came before us, right? There was an understanding, if you really spent some time on the development of a certain composer, the era in which it came into, right? And often we forget that some of the things that we were engaging with as performers in music were things that at the time were the pop culture. We see pop culture very differently now, right? We attribute it to maybe rock bands, etc. But these things were progressive statements being made by musicians. And whether it was something that was improvisational, like jazz at the time, or something that was a bit more scripted and was building on previous approaches to the development of music, these things are really important lessons. And when you get an understanding of the context, when you realize I'm engaging in something that for a moment represented the influences that were coming because of war, because of recession, you end up taking an interest on wanting to understand more what's happening there, right? I also think it's a way to draw on what is unfamiliar to us in terms of a Western culture. There's a lot of influences that go into music, whether it's Eastern or whether it's other things, right? Like I remember the first time discovering the sitar and understanding how it was engaged in other musics. And you become obsessed by really trying to figure out, how can I broaden what I know is my musical orientation and then engage it with something else. And you see a lot of folks who become very talented want to learn how they could apply what they've learned with one instrument across other areas. And much like in the way that we have language development, when you understand the patterns that occur across, you then become more aware of, and your cognition improves tremendously because you can begin to switch across and make translatable things. And I feel like it's a fundamental skill. So I think in those areas, I see a quality music program being integrated into the learning that's happening in history, that's happening in government, and then is being informed by what comes out as the sound of a particular era and a time. And likewise, you end up understanding what the lived experience are of other individuals who are so removed from where we grew up, but their music is informing and their experience on how we make sense of the things before us. So those are sort of two simple ideas that I think are really important to integrate.
And to your point, we're living that right now as we're watching what's happening in Ukraine. In our circles, we're seeing so much of the Ukrainian national anthem being performed at a concert, or some folk songs. And even look to pop culture. A few weeks ago, Saturday Night Live opens up, instead of a skit, they open up with the Ukrainian choir of New York's. So I mean, that you're absolutely spot on with that point.
And I think when people end up trying to pay attention to this and what you describe is sort of the sophisticated integration of promoting a narrative in the way that's not so in your face, that makes people curious. And you want to figure out, how can I do that? How can we, as a Department of Education, integrate certain modes and themes into the ideas that we're talking about at the time? And it really does represent just another body of knowledge that you can draw on that attracts a new audience to the message that you're trying to put out there. So young folks have an opportunity to really become sophisticated about how they think about the integration of music and music culture into what they're trying to achieve. And I feel like it has implications in the marketing world, implications in sort of like the social media world. Like there's just so much there that is really impressive. And it's just another tool for folks to build on. And we don't talk about music education that way.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And so maybe there are these pockets of issues happening as they arise where a music educator can say, okay, this is a place where I can start doing that, because it's baby steps.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's fair to say. So let's kind of wrap up. If you could, what's your message to all of the music and arts educators out there on how valuable they really are to the lives of children and to their schools and into their broader communities?
Mm-hmm. I do think that drawing on what's going to be needed to once again bring resiliency back to the lives of young learners in school, for example, communities, and the state and the nation, right? The one thing that I've always found that's been a real power of healing for me was found in music. And I think that we forget that when we think about the trauma, there are going to be certain things that are going to heal communities, heal schools. And it's important to raise that as an aspect, right? And so I think just in the way that you would move folks to buying into that concept, it also presents a real opportunity for building and broadening, right? I think the interdisciplinary conversation is going to have to grow in importance. I'd like to see that play out more in conferences, right? It'd be nice that if keynotes were coming in to talk about the integration of various disciplines to produce results. And I think that's going to begin to just allow the educators themselves to use that same framework in the conversations that they're having at their schools. And then for us as a department, we need to be better about making sure that we identify the folks that need to be at the table for decision making. And we forget, there are other members of the workforce, the school leadership team that can really set strategic priorities and give direction to schools when direction is needed. And we've got to find our way to be able to do that. And I don't think we've done a good job, but the rebuilding that has to take place, the resources that are coming in are going to allow us to begin to elevate some of those things, right? I know right now the state has a very ambitious proposal for investing in basic education to couple this with the federal resources. And the question that we keep getting is, are both necessary? Absolutely. Because like I mentioned at the beginning, that is how you're going to inspire innovation. That's how you're going to be able to breathe life into disciplines that have felt that they were not part of the conversation, right? And you will create belonging, and that by itself will translate into an improved culture for learning for our students. When our educators feel like they have a part or a place in the school, and they don't have to continuously, and I think what you mentioned in your question is people feel compelled to continuously demonstrate their self-worth. That's not good, because that's not how you have a healthy approach to promoting a discipline, right? No educator should make it be feel. There's many other things that make education hard. It shouldn't have to be in demonstrating your worth to the life and the education of a young learner, right? And so for me, those are a few things that I would offer up, Mark, as some food for thought for individuals.
Well, Secretary Ortega, thank you so much for taking some time to talk and for really all the work that you have been doing. This is not an easy time to take on the role as Secretary of Education. I don't think, anyone envies you, but thank you for all the work that you're doing. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mark.
And I appreciate the trivia fact now that you were a high school drum major in Texas.
For 2 years.
Two. All right. I want a picture of this.
No, you don't.
Thanks for taking the time to talk today.
Thank you.
And that's such an important conversation to have, and there is more of that conversation that we did have, and we will also be releasing more of that conversation on the complete conversation with Secretary Ortega on our Take Note podcast, which will again release on April 1st, the same day that the one with Senator Committa will release. So we are quickly wrapping up here. So what I want to do is I want to invite all of our presenters that were here live with us tonight. I'm going to invite them back onto the screen, and we're going to talk briefly with them to get their last closing thoughts. So I'm going to go ahead and bring everyone in, and we'll just kind of do a quick round robin on some last thoughts that you had from today. So Emily, let's start with you.
I think it was just interesting to hear everyone we spoke to tonight has a different relationship with music and music education. And as music educators, it's really our job to better understand these different relationships and perspectives and harness them to advocate to ensure that music and arts programs continue as a part of education for every child in Pennsylvania. And how we integrate these relationships with music and the creation of policy. One way is to, use our collective voice to showcase the needs. And Senator Committa reminded us that, you have to hear things 7 times before they really sink in. So the more people that participate in tomorrow's Advocacy Day efforts, the more likely we are to make an impact.
Yeah, couldn't agree with you more there. Miranda, we'll go to you next.
I would say something that I definitely noticed across all of the speakers and everyone who shared was we all connected with the fact that having a story that you can share with someone about how music and music education has impacted you is the most powerful way to make change and to connect with people. So I would say one of the biggest takeaways I've had is to continue to do that in my own ways, but also to encourage my friends who I've met through music, whether those are my clarinetist from the Red Coat Band or my many friends who went on to pursue music education as a career path and became music educators, to continue to encourage them to use their voice and mentor and tell their stories to the next generation of musicians and young leaders to help keep spreading this message and enact change in the ways that we hope to do so.
Yeah, absolutely. And Phil, some closing thoughts from you.
Well, tonight is about the state level, and that's really wonderful for what we had from everybody tonight. I really was thoroughly impressed by Emily's presentation there for the local level. And I would highly recommend that everybody who is teaching in Pennsylvania take a listen to that, watch it, and get in touch with your advocacy reps in your district. Because with Emily leading them there, we're doing some really fine things at the local level. So thank you very much for that, Emily. With our other speakers tonight, I was just highly impressed how much music has meant to them. And obviously the marching band part got you there, Mark. It also got me a little bit, even though I've been a choral guy for all these years. My high school marching band also marched in the Rose Parade. So that, yeah, didn't know that, did you?
Did not know that.
But our band was very much along the lines of Know Your Ortegas, and where the fact that after halftime was over, everybody left, or at least 80% of the crowd left, because the football team, unfortunately, at that point was not very good. But it's wonderful to have 2 people in office that are really there for music, that are supportive of it, that know the benefit of it, and I just hope that we can get more and more politicians, elected officials who come from strong music programs, who come from good music programs in Pennsylvania and other places, and then support all the things that we do, and not just by word of mouth, but by actions. And the last thing I want to say, it goes right back to what Senator Committa said, was that tell your story, keep repeating it. We have over 3,000 members. If everybody takes the time tomorrow to do that, imagine the voice we will have. How many times will that be repeated? And again, if it's you, grand. Get your significant other, better. Get your friends, wonderful. And then get your boosters involved, fabulous. That voice will be multiplied by so many. It'll just be something they cannot ignore.
Absolutely. And thank you for that, Phil. And we're going to explain how to do that in a second. But before I do that, I want to thank you, Emily, Miranda, and Phil, for joining us live here tonight and for all your advocacy efforts. And Miranda and Phil, you'll be here with us in Harrisburg tomorrow. We can't wait for it. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
So I've been telling you here all night that we want you to take some action. Well, now's the time that I'm going to explain how that's going to happen. So if you are a PMEA member, you're going to receive an email tomorrow morning with all of these instructions there for you and the link. However, if you're not a member, we still want you to participate. And if you're a member, forward that email on to boosters, to parents, to anyone who's a Pennsylvanian that supports music and arts education. All you have to do is go to advocacy.pmea.net. Click Take Action. From there, there's a brief set of instructions. This all takes about 60 seconds. You fill in your name, you fill in your home address, and then it will bring up who your representatives are. And there will be a populated email with all of those policy asks that I showed you earlier this evening. They'll all be in there for you. You have the option to go in and personalize that email if you want, or you can just send it as it is. The more people that send this message to Harrisburg not only helps with those policy asks, but helps to raise the awareness of who PMEA is. So again, PMEA members, tomorrow morning, look for that email. Everyone else, starting tomorrow, advocacy.pmea.net, click Take Action. Please spread that word to any Pennsylvanian that you know. And I just want to pass on a couple other quick announcements. Coming up next week is the PMEA annual conference at Kalahari in the Poconos. If you are a member and have not registered yet, you want to be there. We're back together after a few years. You can go to pmea.net and see the conference program and see the performing groups. It's going to be so exciting. Pershing's own, the U.S. Army Band, is performing on Thursday night. You can't miss that. It's going to be a great conference. So we definitely want to see you there. And then also, we want to tell you about the Crescendo Student Conference happening virtually on May 14th. This is the second time that we're doing this. This is for students who in grades 8 to 12, any level of music participation. There's going to be some wonderful sessions that day. To the surprise of no one watching this tonight, there's going to be some sessions on marching band, but there's going to be sessions on leadership. There's going to be a session about video game music. And then the day ends with master classes from some nationally known folks who are just really specialists on their instrument. And this is for any student with a level of interest in music. This does not mean that you can only participate if you want to major in music. This is for anyone. It's a wonderful wonderful day. You can find out more at pmea.net/crescendo. We're going to be releasing the schedule on that soon as well. So bookmark that webpage. Again, thank you all for joining us as we ramp up for PMEA's Music Education Advocacy Day, which happens tomorrow. Thank you for all that you do for music education. And please take action tomorrow by visiting advocacy.pmea.net. Thank you for joining us. Have a good evening.